Hey, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident culture warrior, your resident troublemaker, your person who fails at English. Apparently, my English is as good as my Portuguese and Spanish. Little inside joke there. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well, you beautiful badasses. I just like that phrase, so that's what I'm referring to you guys as from now on. Anyway, let's get into this story. I'm not going to actually go into this story because I've already seen it covered enough by other channels here on YouTube. I more want to discuss sort of the implications of this story, okay? And as you know, probably from the thumbnail, but you can see it here. It's the G4TV interview process involved questions about canceling Batman. And it says, in the wake of cancellation and closure of the reboot of G4TV by Comcast, more details about the short-lived network have been coming out. A combination of tweets and open discussions on podcasts from various individuals involved with the network have given everyone insight into how the network was troubled for a long time, but was even more about G4TV prior to the network's relaunch, plagued by other factors unrelated to what was seen in their content. Details about what it was like to interview for a job at G4TV may have given more troubling answers. During the Spawncast after show around the 52:36 time mark, posted on the YouTube channel for RGT85, the channel being RGT Live and Extra, content creator Miss Click openly talked about her experience going through the interview process for G4TV. The discussion during the live show first started with chatter about the late actor Kevin Conroy and his contribution as the voice of Batman. This was interrupted by Miss Click asking if it was okay to discuss something related now that G4TV was no longer around. During the show, Miss Click went on to talk about what she meant. I was already sus of G4TV during the interview process. They offered me a host position where you have to relocate out to LA. So I go through the interview process, and the guy that was interviewing me, he goes, "So why should we cancel Batman? Why do you believe we should cancel Batman?" And I was like, "Why are we canceling Batman?" And he said, quote, "Because he's rich and he's white. People believe that he just skates on the law and that if someone of color did the same thing, they wouldn't get away with it as he does," unquote. As Miss Click went on to detail more about her experience, both the other hosts of the show and the audience in the chat watching were confused and shocked at the revelation. Host RGT85 went on to ask, "That's a real-ass question that they asked you?" To which Miss Click replied immediately after with, "That's literally what G4 Recruiting asked me," and whoever their manager was or whatever their interviewers were doing. So I don't want to go all into it. You can check out the story. It's here. It's coming from Clownfish TV. So you can go to clownfishtv.com. It's their story. Or you can check out the Spawncast after show debauchery on the RGT85 YouTube channel. So you can go there directly. But I wanted to talk more about the implications, because I've seen a lot of people talk about the story, but not so much about what the implications are. Because I think it sort of paints a very frightening picture. Understanding that G4 would do this, and there was a lot wrong with G4, okay? G4TV, I should say. But the simple fact that you have G4TV, which is a network, okay? Remember, this is relaunching of a network, not a particular show, okay? This was supposed to be a sort of semi-network thing, right? Like the original G4, you had all the different shows, Attack of the Show, X-Play, and all, were all different shows on the network G4TV. So that's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a gamer's network. And the fact that you would be interviewing for on-air talent and for a network that's supposed to serve gamers, okay, that should be the only criteria, gamers, okay? But and that their parent company is Comcast, okay, one of the 3 major cable networks in the United States, right? So the fact that this interviewer or manager or whatever he was would be asking questions like, why should we be canceling characters? And when pushed, the response is, well, because they're rich and white. That's an acceptable answer. Rich and white is kind of frightening, to be honest with you. It's you know me being a little bit older than a lot of the folks that would be into gaming and stuff like that now. Having grown up in the 80s, I was a teenager in the 1980s and stuff like that. My parents and our parents, and when I say our parents, I mean Gen Xers, our parents, the whole thing was to sort of not be sucked into the trap of this sort of self-imposed segregation and not becoming that which we were opposed to, i.e., ists and phobes and stuff like that. We were taught that the best way to go about your life was, accept people for who they are and judge people based on their character and their actions, not on the color of their skin, not on their choice of lifestyle or preferences or identity or any of that stuff. That it was all about what you did and who and your character. And it was a simple rule. But I've spent my entire life going through life with one simple rule, and that is simply don't be an asshole. I mean, it's literally that simple, okay? You want to get through life and have a good life and not be miserable all the time? Don't be an asshole, right? Don't judge people because their identity is different from yours or their ethnicity is different from yours or whatever. And that's sort of what we've done. But in the past, I don't know. I'd say since 2012-ish and stuff like that, there's been almost like this regressive movement that's going on where you're seeing this more and more openly pushing for bigotry against certain groups. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, with your white fragility and your white privilege and your white this and your white that and stuff like that. But it's not about that. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter who's on the receiving end of it. The point is that I thought the goal was for us as a society to move away from that stuff. But what this article shows is that even now in the 2020s, we're at a point where multi-million-dollar corporations will determine whether or not you get hired for the job based on who you are willing to discriminate against. Okay, it's not what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not enough that you're opposed to, let's say, racism or transphobia or homophobia or opposed to misogyny, but it's that you are specifically okay with removing people, characters in this particular instance, literally because they just meet two criteria. In this case, it's like, oh, he's rich. Rich people bad. And yes, we all understand there's the whole, eat the rich and all that stuff, and there always will, for time immemorial, there's always going to be that haves versus the have-nots. That's just the way it is. The utopia will never exist. I hate to break it to people. If you really think that we're someday going to live in a moneyless society where everybody has the same homes and cars and stuff like that, you are sadly mistaken. That is never going to happen. And you want to know why? Human nature. There will always be somebody who wants something more than what everybody else has. That's just human nature. Everybody wants to be individualized. So that guy has a Mustang. Everybody else may be fine with having a Mustang, but you want a Lamborghini. Why? Because you prefer a fucking Lamborghini. Okay? Well, what does that mean? That means that now you get the Lamborghini. But now the guy next to you, he also... And you see how it never ends? And so we're at a point now where it's openly okay in the hiring process to turn around and be like, well, the correct answer is to cancel this person because they're rich and white. Which I'm wondering, would it be acceptable then to when someone's applying for a job, tell them, well, the correct answer on why you would cancel this character is because they're poor and black? Is that acceptable? because in my world, the way I was raised, it's not. And it's equally not as acceptable to say you cancel somebody simply because they're rich and white, and that's an okay criteria, basis for criteria in a job interview. And I think it just shows how far as a society we've come. We're seeing it all over the place, where it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna make this movie that totally trashes men simply because men. Okay, not like any specific man or anything that was specifically done, but just no, like, we live in a patriarchy, so therefore it's okay, to make an entire movie where men are just either portrayed as idiots or outright evil simply because they have a penis. Okay. You also see it with this sort of self-imposed segregation at, like, oh, we need black only spaces, we need Latino only spaces. Okay, which, if that's truly how you feel, it's fine. But then by default, aren't you also then creating white only spaces? Because it seems to me that if you tell all the black people, hey, this is our own space just for us, and you tell all the Latino people, this is your own space just for you, and you tell all the Asian people and Arabic people, this space is just for you, at some point you get to the point where it's like, hey, white guys, this space is just for you. Okay? And that seems kind of counterproductive. I thought that's where we were wanting to get away from, not where we wanted to go. But anyway, the point I wanted to make is I think that's the lesson that should be taken away from this story. I didn't want to just regurgitate the story. I wanted to sort of dig a little deeper and say, is this really where we're at? Like, even being hired as on-air talent for a gamers network, okay? The criteria involves political and racial qualifications. You have to meet the minimum standard of acceptable bigotry, acceptable prejudice, in order to get a job here. And it's stated out in the open. It's not like this was hidden, okay? This was an interview process that this Miss Click woman went through, okay? Wasn't hidden, wasn't underground. It wasn't like some rogue, HR person did this. This was just part of the process. And again, at some point, do we stop and go, how did we get here? Because it seems like we've sort of lost the plot on the whole thing. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on that and sort of give it a little bit more deeper thought than just regurgitating the story. Again, you can go to clownfishtv.com and check out the story for yourselves. They have it over there. And you can also go to the RGT85, their YouTube channel, and check out the Spawncast After Show Debauchery. I got it up there on the screen there. Let me try and bring it back up here for you. Yep, there it is. And let me know what you think. So, yeah, that's all I got on that one. So I will talk to you guys later. Remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to share the video, give it a share. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. And if you have not subscribed yet, please, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing and click the red subscribe button or the white subscribe button. I don't know what they're changing it to these days. And if you have subscribed, you're already freaking awesome. All right, guys, I will talk to you on the next one. Peace.